let me give you a quick introduction about him. So Luv Johar is a seasoned governance, risk and compliance professional and certified ISO lead implementer with over a decade of experience in cybersecurity and information security training. As the founder of CyberGRC, he has delivered 10,000 plus hours of training to 20,000 plus professionals across 15 plus countries, empowering global teams to implement and audit ISO 27001, ISO 22301, ISO 27701, and ISO 42001 framework. Loves practical hands-on teaching style, bridge technical depth with real-world application, making complex GRC concept simple and actionable. He holds multiple certification including ISO 27001 and 42001 lead implementer, CompTIA Security Plus, ITIL V4, CCNA, and Prince 2 practitioner. Vidya, and today we are diving into the one of the most powerful and most misunderstood concept in data privacy, that is consent. Everyone talks about getting concerned, but very few organizations exactly understand what valid consent look like under modern privacy laws. Let's decode it with real life example, common mistakes and practical insights. Is concerned what it takes. I'm not audible.
Yeah, Vidya, go again. You were not audible.
Okay. Okay, so I'll just give a short introduction that what I just given now. I'm your host Vidya and welcome back to Cyber Talk with Cyber GRC. Today we are diving into most of the this concept is most powerful and most misunderstood concept in data privacy, that is consent. Everyone talks about getting concerned, but very few organizations actually understand what valid consent look like under modern privacy laws. So let's decode this with real life example and common mistake and practical insights. My first question is, what exactly is concerned in the context of data privacy?
So consent is the foundation of data privacy, Vidya. So consent is basically the main foundational pillar when we talk about data privacy. You can take any law, you can take any it can be GDPR, it can be DPDP Act. Everything around privacy revolves around consent. Okay, so a consent basically gives allowance from a person, from a data subject, to the organization, to the data fiduciary, to process their personal data. Okay, so this is how somebody allows you. So and a data subject allows you. For example, you want Zomato to use your name, to use your address, to use your phone number to deliver your services, right? So this is a consent that Zomato has taken from you, or Swiggy has taken from you to deliver the food, right? At any point of time, if you want, as a data subject, you can ask them that no longer you are ready to provide this consent. Okay, so this consent is very important. Okay, so it is basically an expression by a person, okay, that I allow you basically, okay, to process my personal data to provide me some services. Okay, so in order to do that, first of all, the user should be able to know what all data are they collecting on behalf of the user, understand why they're collecting the data, okay, and they should agree voluntarily, okay, and they should know how to withdraw the consent also after every given time, right? For example, let's say tomorrow you're not happy with the services, right? Then you want to withdraw the consent. So what is the mechanism for that?
Mhm.
You need to be aware about that as well, right? So when you install any mobile application, you must have seen that you click on I agree, okay, to allow a mobile application to access your location for food delivery tracking and all, right? You agree to that. So this is your consent actually, okay? So this is how consent works.
Okay. Before moving ahead to our next question, I want to tell the audience that if you have any kind of question, feel free to ask questions and you do not have to hesitate because we are for you guys only. So please feel free. My second question is why is consent considered the strongest legal basis for processing personal data?
It is because consent gives the full control on the data subject, okay? Consent gives full control in the user's hand. For example, you are the consumer, I am the consumer, right? Consent is in our hand, whether we want to provide the consent or not, okay? And it provides the organization, the service provider, the data fiduciary, to make sure that they can prove that they have our consent or not, as a user, as a data subject, right? Whether they have our permission, whether they are allowed, okay, to collect our data and for using our data or not, okay? So that is why
Okay.
consent is very important, and consent has to be transparent, it has to be traceable, okay? And they should basically be able to create a audit log also, like how the consent was created, how the consent is maintained. Everything has to be there from a consent perspective, okay? So for example, if an organization is storing your Aadhaar card, for example, okay, so without your consent, how can the organization store or process your Aadhaar card? It's not important. It's not possible, right? It's actually against the law. Okay, so that is why legally consent holds a lot of value, and consent is the basis on which the entire privacy laws are actually developed around. As a data subject, as a consumer, as a user, consent is the main right and main what can I say, main authority that I have over my data.
Okay, can we discuss a little about law regarding that allows this consent thing and is this law applicable? Like, is it originated from India or is it like worldwide? As we have discussed, like EU Act and all.
Yes, absolutely correct, Vidya. So basically it is in the EU region as well. In the EU region they have European Union region, they have GDPR, okay? So similarly in
Yeah.
India we have DPDP
Mm.
Act now. So this is how you see. So different countries have their own
Mhm.
privacy regulations also. So yes, California has their own California Privacy Act. So yes, we do have it in different countries with different names. But yes, the overall mechanism, the overall structure revolves around consent only. How the consent is taken,
Okay.
how the consent is
Yeah.
managed,
What act we have in
everything is
India?
tracked. A DPDP Act.
Okay, DPDP Act. It is for consent
Yeah.
also.
Yes, it is based around
Acha.
consent only. Yes, yes.
Okay. My next question is what makes consent invalid or illegal?
So consent becomes invalid when you already get a pre-checked box. For example, you're not able to tick any box. You're not able to say yes to a particular thing. When basically somebody is forcing you that we will not provide you service if you will not give consent, or will not give you additional features and
Yeah,
all.
okay.
Okay, if they are hidden in long terms and
Huh.
contracts, very long terms and conditions which you are not able to understand also, when they are basically confusing and not
Hmm.
specific as to why exactly they are taking the consent, Okay, for example, by using this app you get a message, right? By using this app you allow us to track your contacts, gallery, and all those locations and all, right? So this is not valid consent actually. This is a bundled consent. They are asking you for all the things at one go. Ideally this is not the case. Ideally it is incorrect. Ideally each consent has to be taken for one specific purpose only. That is how it should be.
Acha. Yeah, okay. Okay, but when we have that terms and condition one, so we are basically applying it to all the specifications to say yes, right?
But it is not correct. That's what I'm saying. It is not correct, Vidya, because in those terms and conditions you don't know what all they are putting in actually, and we as customers, we don't have time to read all those conditions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That that is where consent has to be very specific,
True.
to the point, and only for a specific purpose. That's it.
In that scenario, what you would suggest to our audience, what they should do? Like, we cannot read every term and condition.
So this is basically a new act which is coming in India now, and I think people need more awareness, especially organizations who are providing the service, right? For example, any service provider would now have to take these considerations. Okay, would now have to start thinking about these things. Okay, so and as an end customer, definitely right now we don't have a choice, but since now it is enforced from 13th of November already, now slowly you will see all these things coming up with you. So these are the sessions that we are taking to bring more and more awareness, so that service providers start taking these things seriously now, because this is where they will get heavy penalties. This is where the
Hmm.
organizations will be
Okay.
fined. This is where they'll be actually hold accountable and responsible.
Okay. My next question is, what is informed consent and why is it important? I guess I have to repeat my question, right?
Yeah, you're not audible.
My question is, what is informed consent and why is it important?
See, informed consent means the user is able to understand what data are you collecting, why you are collecting the data, how long will you keep the data, who are you sharing the data with, for what purposes are you sharing the data. All this is called informed consent. Okay, when you get a button which says agree to, it is not an informed consent, right? Because there is no explanation, no information, nothing.
Okay.
Okay, so when
Yeah.
when
Can
somebody
you
when
give some example?
yeah, yeah, exactly. When somebody says we require your location to give it to the nearby drivers, and this data is not shared with any other third party apart from these particular cab drivers, this is how it should be. And this data is only available for the next 2 hours, so that you can get the cab service. This is how it should be actually.
Okay. Uh, how should consent be collected practically?
So, as per the DPDP Act, Vidya, this is how the Act basically wants the organizations to work around the consent. Okay, these are the consent requirements. So, I prepared this small, layout for anybody who is watching. If you want, they can take a screenshot of this as well when they're watching, right? So, basically, consent must be specific, free, informed, unconditional, and unambiguous, like we saw, right? So, this is a basic consent standard. If you are not following this standard, basically you are not following the DPDP Act. Very simple, right?
Hmm.
Consent
Okay.
must be taken separately for each and every specific purpose, like we discussed, right? If you are providing, courier service, consent has to be taken separately. If you want to use that same data for some other purposes, again a different consent has to be taken, right? That's how it will be. Easy withdrawal. People should know, data subjects should know, individuals should know how to withdraw the consent easily. They should be able to withdraw the consent easily, and withdrawal mechanisms should also be clearly provided. Okay. Child data protection. Processing children data requires verifiable parent consent, because children can't provide consent on their own, right? So that is
Yeah.
why you need a parental or guardian consent on that case. Okay.
Yeah, as we have discussed in one of the podcasts, like below 18 years of, people, you cannot ask for consent, right?
That is absolutely correct. Yes. So similarly, if the purpose of data usage changes, for example, today I have collected your data for providing you cab service, but tomorrow I might have to share that data with somebody else, or I want to store that data for long to basically see the pattern of cab usage in my app or something. So here now the data usage is changing, the purpose of the data usage is changing, so I should provide you a fresh consent, that this is the new consent. Are you allowing me to use this data or not for this particular new purpose? Okay. So any changes in the data usage, again a new fresh consent has to be taken by the organization. Okay. See, from a consent perspective, organizations have to ensure that they follow each and everything which is mentioned here. Otherwise, I think they have to pay 250 crores, which is, I think, not a small amount for any organization, right? And these are hefty penalties if you do not take care of these small things into consideration. Okay, because as I said, Vidya, the whole principle of privacy revolves around consent only. If you are not able to
Mm.
understand the consent part, if the organization is not managing consent properly, making sure the consent is taken properly, it's a lost battle actually. Okay, so there should not be any pre-ticked boxes. Okay, there should be a
Mm.
mandatory notice that what data is collected, why data is collected. There should be no forced consent. Okay, so
Mm.
consent record keeping should be there, for how long they are managing the records for the consent. And any no response from the customer, for example silence or inactivity. For example, let's say somebody asks you for a consent, but then you did not respond to that, it should not automatically be recognized as a consent. Getting it? So this is a very important part. If you are not getting it from a customer, if you're not getting it from a data subject, if you're not getting it from somebody, it does not mean that it is an implied consent. That means consent is not provided. Okay, so these are the things
Okay.
organizations have to understand and start looking at.
Okay, as we discussed about easy withdrawal of consent, I want you to share how can user withdraw consents.
They should be able to do it very easily, right? There should be either email address that should be provided to them, or there should be features within the app itself which actually allow the user to stop providing the consent anymore. Okay, so it's actually up to the organization
Okay.
how they basically
Yeah.
build the data, the workflows. So basically data stops being processed immediately. So organizations, the service providers, the data fiduciaries should be able to give such measures for that actually. Yes.
Okay. Again, the next point is about children's data. As we discussed there about the concern that we cannot take consent of children. So, what is the role of consent in children's data?
So in children's data, organizations must verify first of all the age of the children. Okay, the identity of the guardian also has to be verified, and they have to pay proper attention to the consent in this case, because in this case if the consent is not genuine, okay, it will become again a very big issue. Okay, for example, if the parent receives an OTP, okay, on their registered mobile number to approve the children profile
Mm.
creation, only in that case they should, when they enter the OTP, when they actually agree with the consent, only then they should be able to proceed with the children data. Okay, because children cannot understand legally any data risk, right? And for them, the parents, the guardians only are the ones who are taking care of this thing. Yes.
Yes. Okay. My next question is, why do so many organizations fail at managing concern?
Yes, they don't track it. That is the simple and major reason. They don't
Okay.
track it. They don't track it. They don't maintain logs. They don't maintain trails for the consent. They don't revise consent when their purpose is changes. Okay, these are these small issues. They don't handle consent withdrawals. I've hardly seen any consent withdrawal so far. Okay, they don't handle it properly. Okay,
Mhm.
and they use the same data for
Yeah,
different
even we don't
purposes.
do like in general. Yeah.
Yeah, they use the same data for different purposes
Mm.
without permission. Okay, so yeah, they use it actually. For example, a bank collects your consent for KYC. Okay, and later this same bank use the same data to sell you credit cards. So it happens, right? People, organizations do
Okay.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So this is basically a major violation because purpose has changed now. Same data is being used, but no fresh consent has been taken. Now this is where organizations have to start now paying more attention, because now DPDP Act is on and enforced. So now more and more things will start coming in this regard.
Okay. So my last and the final question is, how can organization build a strong consent management system?
There should be a tracking. There should be a logging mechanism for everything in terms of consent. For example, when was the consent taken? Who gave the consent? For what purpose
Okay.
the consent was given? Which data are you collecting through that consent? How the data is stored or managed? Okay, and for how long? And how were the user informed? Was the user also informed to how to actually revoke the consent also? That should also be there. So all these things are very important from a consent mechanism perspective. So yeah, this is how it should be.
Okay. At the end, you would like to say something to our audience?
So anybody who is watching, I would say that DPDP practical hands-on course we are launching on the 7th of December, weekend batch. Okay, so if anybody is interested, please get in touch with us. We can help you understand all these things practically. We can help you understand how this will impact your organization also. If somebody, uh, we have a question actually, Vidya.
How can we trust organization they are using DPDP Act?
So thank you for so much, Rajni, for asking the question first of all. So any organization, if they are operating on the data of Indian citizens and their data subjects are Indian citizens, right? They have to follow DPDP Act. It is not up to them whether they are using it or not. They have to follow it. It's a law. Okay. So now they have to start understanding the law, understanding the legalities, understanding the role of the organization itself, the data fiduciary itself. So yeah, it is a mandatory now. It's not like you can skip it anyhow.
If you have to take this topic of concern in your batch, so how you would train to your trainers?
So what? Yeah, very good question, Vidya. So how we would do basically a cyber GRC, if you are coming to us for training purposes, we would take your consent, saying that okay, Vidya, you are coming to us for this course for this duration. We are collecting your name, your email, for your phone number, for contacting you in case you're not able to join the session on time. All these things we have to now verify. We need to keep them in place, and for each and every specific thing we have to take consent from you. Like, Vidya, do you allow us to call you for a session? This is one consent.
Hmm.
Okay, Vidya,
Okay.
do you allow us to use your email to provide you the exam results? This is another consent. So this is how it will go.
Hmm.
Specific consent for specific permission. and for specific data type. That's how it should be.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. And that's wrap up for today's episode. One of the power of consent of data privacy. I would like to say that consent isn't just a checkbox; it's a foundation of digital trust, user control, and legal compliance. Organizations that understand consent don't just avoid penalties; they build stronger relationship with their users. If you want to learn hands-on privacy, DPDP ISO 27701, join CyberGRC Practical GRC program. Until next time, stay secure, stay compliant, and stay informed. See you in the next episode.
Thank you, Vidya.